Welcome, Katie, to our FSUI platform.
Thank you, Manoj. Very nice to be here.
Thank you very much.
Although I wish I was in India.
Yeah, we will start in a short. Some delegates, we are waiting for some delegation. We will start in 5 minutes or 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Brother Asif, are you there? Brother Asif, I can't hear you. Are you there? Lisa, please open your cam.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, but just open your camera.
Yes, sir.
Brother Asif, I can't see your face. Yeah, welcome, Lisa. Comrades, I am requesting all, please open your cams and see, and we can start. Most of the comrades are here. I think we are waiting for brothers, and I think Asif is here. Asif, please show your face. Yeah. Welcome, Nandi Chaudhary.
Am I audible?
Yeah, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Asif. Can you call?
Hello.
Yeah. You are audible, brothers. Asif, you see your face.
I already put the video.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's on.
Is difficulty, I think some problem on this file.
Okay.
Dr. Asif, is it okay? We can start by the time you can come with your video.
Yeah, something went wrong with my video. I don't know what's happening. It's saying error, but yeah, you start, please.
Yeah, okay, okay. Good morning, Katie in UK, and good morning, Asif in UK, and good evening, comrades in Mumbai and Delhi and Kolkata. On behalf of FSUI, we welcome all the dignitaries to this e-platform of FSUI. Here now, Asif, Dr. Asif is here. Welcome.
Yeah.
So we have just started, brother, that we welcome all the dignitaries to this e-platform of FSUI, and thank you very much for your time and your consideration of within a short notice. This meeting, this platform has been called to discuss and to launch our app that is called FSUI app, along with our that well-being service that is called as FSUI Sea Call service. This service is to provide the service, provide the counseling service to the seafarers. This service is going to be act as a pilot project for next 6 months, which is available from 1200 hours in the morning to 0000 hours at midnight. And our counselor Lisa Azarika, which is available over here, she will come back with the statement. I welcome Comrade Tapan Sen, General Secretary, CITU. I welcome Katie Hingbottom, the head of the ITF Seafarer Trust. I welcome Dr. Asif Altaf, the well-being in charge of the ITF. I welcome Comrade Nandi Chaudhary, the Secretary of CITU Central. I welcome Lisa. I welcome Bankim Bharti and other comrades. I think they are going to join soon. But by the time we will start, recently, just a week before, our former General Secretary passed away, Sadan Kanjilal, who was well known with the ITF fraternity in UK and worked very closely with Asif and the other comrades during our that HIV project, which was very famous during the 90s. And I think Asif knows about that, and it was well recognized at international platform. So I humbly request all the dignitaries to give a word in silence to our former General Secretary Sadan Kanjilal. Thank you very much. Just for 1 second, 1 minute, comrade. Thank you. Thank you, comrade. Thank you very much. So, without taking much time, I request Comrade Tapan Sen, General Secretary of CITU, to come with his opening remarks. During lockdown, government fails to provide the security and the safety to the seafarers, where the migrant laborers walked miles away from metro cities to their hometown. In that, seafarers were also there who came all the way for their further studies in metro cities like Mumbai, like Kolkata, like Chennai. With the less money, with the less infrastructure, by which they have not able to survive much longer. And along with the migrant labor, along with the other workers, seafarers also suffered, seafarers family also suffered. And I request Comrade Tapan Sen to give his opening remarks on this migrant, that seafarers and the lockdown and the government anti-policy against the worker. So over to Comrade Tapan Sen. Thank you very much.
Dignitaries who are in this platform of Forward Cements Union of India, which is an affiliated unit of Center of Indian Trade Unions from the very beginning, and a leading force in the seafarers movement in the country. We are proud of having FSUI with CITU. It has traveled through many distance, during the recent period, but ultimately with the support of the overwhelming support of the seafarers of our country, it has been able to weather that disturbance and on a much consolidated, stronger platform right now. I thank all the FSUI leaders and activists for this on behalf of CITU, Center of Indian Trade Unions. So my second point is that we are passing through a very critical time. Now, Comrade talked about the trouble being faced by the seafarers during this pandemic period. It is not merely seafarers. It is the working people in general. No segment of the working people who produce wealth for the society, who actually constitute the GDP of the country, on which our policymakers are very much discussing about. It is the workers who create that value addition in the national economy, seafarers included. And the entire working population are most treated like animals during this pandemic period. They suffered the most. Not merely migrant workers, workers from all fields. They lost their wages, they lost their livelihood, they lost their social security, they lost everything, even the shelter, particularly migrant workers. Immediately after the announcement of the lockdown, they are thrown out of their rented accommodation, and crores of migrant workers taken on the street with their family, children, walking miles to reach their native place. And they thought that going back to native place will be getting some relief. But alas, even while going back to native place, they don't have any job. And if they don't have any work, means next day, how they will eat and feed their children, completely uncertain. The workers who are creating value for the society have been turned beggars by the anti-worker, anti-people policy of the government. They have just been turned beggar. It is not that anything was not possible. They could not have been given relief. Despite economic slowdown. Because during the same period of pandemic, around 40-45 days, the richest 50% heads of the Indian community have increased their wealth by more than 40%. Where from that money come? A worker is being made to starve with his family, and that money was transferred to the pocket of these wealthy people. And it is not merely in India, the entire world. 16 billionaires in the US have increased their wealth by more than 30% during 40 days period of pandemic under the Trump administration. That is the story throughout the globe, and that is the story wherever capitalism is in operation. And that is horrible situation with which the Indian working people are passing through. And seafarers, also as a part of that working people, are also the worst sufferers. And for seafarers, there is certain additional ground of suffering. They stay with their family, away from their family for months together, roaming in ship in a very adverse weather and atmospheric condition. That is their additional hazard. And during the pandemic, when lockdown is there, every other economic operation has been suspended, but seafarers are on floating mode. They are on floating mode. They are serving the role of transporting the commodities from one corner of the world to the another corner for the service of the mankind. They are keeping the wheel of the business on. The business which meant profit and goes to the pocket of these 50 or 60 wealthy people, while the workers who are creating that value are being made. That is the contrast in present day situation. And seafarers suffered worst. When during lockdown, they need repatriation. At least CITU wrote number of letters to the concerned authorities to ensure their repatriation back home when they are not on the job. That was not done. Only very few so-called so many programs have been undertaken like Vande Bharat and what is not. But that did not serve the working people that is, neither the seafarers. And on the other hand, those who are repatriated somehow, they don't get work. Those foreign seafarers who are repatriated from Indian soil to their native countries, those places are not filled up by Indian seafarers. They would have got some job to manage their family. Even that was not done. And whatever package announced by the government, nothing was meant for the seafarer and crews. That is the barbarity of the entire system. Those who are creating values, and particularly seafarers who are always on floating, always on operation, keeping the supply chain around the world undisturbed for the people at large, for the economy at large. That is the role the seafarers are playing. It was told. And the government does not have any sense that something special needs to be done by them. And now what is happening in the entire seafarers profession and occupation? The manning level has been reduced to an inhuman level. In many parts of our country, the seafarers are fighting for that. The manning pattern in different vessels has developed to such an extent that no human being can take up that workload while floating on the sea. Their health, it has upon their health. But government turns a deaf ear. A number of agencies that was created, Director General of Shipping, etc., Welfare Society, etc., they did nothing on that kind, despite repeated complaints, letters, and agitations being made by them. It was a horrible state of affairs situation through which seafarers are moving. Again, I am telling you, weathering the rough weather, not only a natural weather, but also a very barbarous weather created by the rulers of the country, who are only for the wealthy people, corporate people, not for the people who create value in the society, who keep the supply chain of the entire country undisturbed. For them, nothing to be done. That's a very adverse, challenging situation seafarers are moving. And I am proud that the Forward Seamen of India, Union of India, at every stage taking up their issue. It is not no more now under this lockdown period, pandemic period. It is no more an issue of workers' rights, but the human rights as well. It is no more that the workers' job is being disturbed. The workers' entitlement for human survival is being put at stake. Because the economy during the slowdown, all the countries are reporting negative GDP rates. All the countries, including rich and poor alike, developing and developed alike. And in that situation, when the wealth and profit is allowed to mount, during the same pandemic period, the only government of India, the concession floated from government of India to big corporates is more than 79%. And the government is lamenting that we are short of funds, short of revenue. So we cannot give anything to people. Why that 79% concession to them? What they have contributed? But they have fattened their purse. While more than 20 crores people lost their livelihood during a span of 45-50 days in our country. I am telling the data of our country. I will get a different, much more horrible picture, global, and it matches. So in that kind of a situation, FSUI is trying to play its role very assiduously, representing the interest of the seafarers and not the interest of the shipping barons, who are also a partner of minting money at the cost of the working people of the country without creating any value. Their purse is getting fattened, means they are looting the people, looting the workers. So FSUI is fighting against that troubled sea. And they have taken also initiative of launching this particular platform. And during this kind, seal period, they have also taken up an important initiative, because the present situation not merely are making the people to starve, they make them mentally deranged. The pressure of the general crisis, and it is not a crisis of my right is being killed, but crisis in my survival entitlement as a human being in a civilized society. They are under mental pressure, and different imbalances are created, and particularly those families whose only breadwinner was roaming around the world, floating on the very rough sea. So their mental health also to be taken care of. We can't expect the shipping barons to take care of them. They will take care of their own earnings and profit. So, as a union representing the workers, they took an initiative to address, or rather, let me tell you, not just trying to address that aspect through a kind of counseling service, so that a ray of hope in every human being, so long he is alive, can be kept ignited. A ray of hope. That okay, today crisis is there, but ultimately we are creating value. We are keeping the value of the chain of the, we are keeping the wheel of the entire world economy running. We cannot be cowed down, and ultimately we will win. With that confidence, they should fight together. And for that, a hopefulness is required, a confidence is required. And in that direction, a counseling service can play a very important role. And they have taken that initiative. I again I am proud myself in getting associated with this launching ceremony of that for the counseling service. Along with that, struggles they are making day in and day out. I congratulate the leadership of FSUI. I express my deep satisfaction of having FSUI. CITU is the foundation of CITU 50 years back. CITU was founded. It is today, this year is our golden jubilee year. And since the beginning itself, this organization is with us. And at one point of time, we became the majority among the Indian seafarers. We have many such flying laurels in our cap. We again hope that we'll fight along. whatever crisis that has been imposed on us, the worker finally cannot be cowed down. Ultimately, for the workers, they have an entire world to win. They have nothing to lose but their kids, and they have a world to win. And with that confidence, the seafarers will fight under the leadership of FSUI, Forward Seamen's Union of India. I am confident, and keeping the ray of hope burning, ignited in each individual seaman. The initiative, this counseling service taken by initiative FSUI, I commend that initiative, and I wish all success to them. And at the end, let us tell you that already the Indian trade union movement unitedly decided to continue to fight against this barbarous depredation imposed on the working people who create value for the society. And we have decided for a countrywide general strike on 26th of November 2020. All the 10 central trade unions are united in this platform, and they have given the call. Seafarers will be an integral part of this struggle. While fighting, you have to keep your workforce hopeful, confident, not to die in despair, and hence the your counseling service. I believe that that is the purpose on which this initiative has been taken by FSUI. I commend that. I congratulate FSUI leadership for that. And along with that, wish all success to this novel initiative having been taken by FSUI. Thank you all, brothers, sisters, and the dignitaries who were here. I think I could share the understanding of the whole situation with you, and very much needed what for we are working. And FSUI leadership should also be put themselves on this track of approach. With these few words, I conclude. Thank you. Yes, Manoj.
Yeah, thank you, comrade. Thank you very much for your opening remark, and you have exactly pointed out where the seafarers are also struggling. I know, comrade, you have to go for another meeting. Before I proceed further, I request you to just launch our app logo as well as our this campaign or that FSUI Sea Call service from your computer too, because we are live on Facebook and seafarers are watching. Thousands and thousands seafarers are there. So before I proceed further, I welcome Brother Sangam Tripathi, Assistant Regional Secretary from ITF Asia Pacific. And with this, I request Comrade Tapan Sen to just open this, launch this app service as well as FSUI Sea Call service from your end.
Okay.
Yeah, open the app, Comrade.
कर दिया हमने शेयर कर दिया फेसबुक में भी आ गया
Okay. So can I come back to the thing? Okay. Can I not stop sharing?
स्टॉप शेयरिंग
Thank you, comrade. Thank you very much. This app includes everything: the CITU link, the ITF link, the ITF Seafarers Trust link. Everything is there inside the app, and we are trying to provide maximum services maximum contacts from all the ports, nearby ports to the seafarers, along with our this free call service that is called FSUI SEA CALL service. During the lockdown time, ITF Seafarer Trust has worked globally to provide all type of assistance to the seafarers and their families. On behalf of FSUI, we approached for some seafarers who were badly trapped in Kakinada on one vessel where the vessel is got detained. In that condition, also ITF Seafarer Trust helped us a lot and provided some financial assistance to the seafarers. It is a marvelous example in the shipping industry that ITF Seafarer Trust was very much active during the lockdown and right now also with the various types of their programs, campaigns. Even during the lockdown where seafarers were not repatriated for the time of 14 to 15 months, that time also to cheer up that ITF Trust came with so many, you can say so many, what is called competition like that, share your photos and something like to cheer up these people, to cheer up the seafarers who were badly drawn in the sea. It is really very shameful that within past 5 to 6 months, where seafarers started committing suicide on board ship due to the because they are not repatriated due to the stress, mental stress. In that condition, ITF Seafarer Trust performed very well, and we are very much happy and very much thankful to for Katie, who has taken all the way time and postponed her another meeting to join this meeting. Thank you very much, Katie, and I welcome you on behalf of FSUI for your views. Over to Katie.
Thank you very much.
Manoj, kindly permit me to leave. I have to go for another meeting.
Yeah, okay, comrade. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, comrade, for your participation. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Manoj, for the introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here and to join you on this auspicious day to launch your new service and your new app. It's very kind of you as well to give me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the work of the Trust in this challenging period. I think it feels like already a lot of time has passed. Back in April, we convened a meeting of the Board of Trustees and we said, okay, this pandemic is upon us, it's upon the seafarers. We're going to have to rethink our budgeting. We're going to have to rethink our program of work. Because if you recall at that time, as well as the medical pandemic, the economic situation was in free fall, and we were quite concerned for our investments and our cash flow. So we decided to quickly refocus, and our trustees were very responsive to that. So we were able to launch an emergency COVID response fund. We immediately allocated £1 million to that fund to support whatever work was needed going on the ground. And that meant both responding to the welfare providers whose services were under quite a lot of stress due to not being able to fundraise and due to all of the changes that were having to be made to deal with the pandemic. But also we really wanted to support union programs to help them provide either personal protective equipment or emergency supplies or emergency support for their members in difficulty in whatever way they could. And I'm really pleased that in the end, we gave a lot more money to the union initiatives than the welfare providers, which is something that since I've been involved with the Trust, coming from the ITF campaign side, I'm very pleased to see the unions really rising to the occasion. And I'm very pleased to be able to direct some of the funds of the Trust into union projects that both support the welfare of all seafarers, but also build the capacity of the unions to have a greater impact and a more sustainable operation going forward. And I know Manoj has been really dynamic in his leadership and in the programs that he's been putting together. And we're really proud to support him in that work. I know I think we ended up with about 50 grant applications that we processed in a really short amount of time in a very global way. We covered about 30 countries across all regions of the world. And it was really comforting to realise that we could mobilise very quickly and move our funding out to where it was needed. Although it's true to say that some financial systems are quite difficult to deal with, and it's sometimes quite difficult getting the money to the place in a timely fashion, and that's something we really need to work on. So after we spent our £1 million, we went back to our trustees and we allocated another £500,000 for the emergency fund. But we're now in a situation, I think, where COVID is no longer a sudden emergency, it's the current way of life. So our funding activities have merged into our normal funding activities. So we're back to making usual grants, but I guess in a way, most things are now so focused on the crisis around crew change and all of the implications around that. So we've been funding projects to support quarantine services, to support testing facilities. And as Manoj made reference to, we launched this competition under the heading Still at Sea to try and engage with seafarers and let them tell their stories. So we were really pleased by the response to that project. We had something like 3,000 submissions. We announced the prize winners last week. So for us now, we have this huge archive of seafarers' images of their daily lives during COVID, some of them showing all of the enormous strain, really, of having to wear all this protective gear and still do the day job, still be on board. Some of them obviously in lockdown, missing their families. Some of them having fun, really, as well. Some of them showing really the huge resilience of seafarers and the ability to have a kind of dark sense of humour about all the difficulties that are going on. So we have descriptions and sort of small stories with all these images. So for us, the work begins actually with this archive of material. So we've kind of realised that one of our core jobs now is to promote the existence of seafarers to the wider world. Because I think, whilst I agree with all of the comments of the earlier speaker, this pandemic has really heightened global inequalities, has really made workers on the front line, the people that are bearing the brunt of this crisis and keeping everything going for everybody else. But on a more positive note, there is also a lot of international cooperation currently going on. There's a lot of work going on within the ITF with the International Chamber of Shipping and with the International Maritime Organization and with the International Labour Organization. So although I think there's huge amounts of work to be done, there are some glimmers of positivity around that international cooperation. But unfortunately, what it also shows is that that's not enough to open up borders and get seafarers repatriated and facilitate crew change. That's still an enormous challenge. So for us, whilst it's back onto us to carry on promoting welfare projects, supporting unions, providing support, it's also about telling the story of seafarers beyond maritime, to try and have some kind of leverage with the decision makers who are much more focused on their own political circumstances and not really aware of what an enormous burden this is on seafarers. So at this point, I think it's a good moment to mention that it's really important for seafarers to recognise that there is support out there for them. And this initiative of FSUI to initiate this SEACALL support project, along with the app, is really timely. When we carried out some research on seafarers' mental health last year with Yale University, it was already apparent that seafarers are under a huge amount of pressure and really experiencing quite high levels of depression and anxiety, and having thoughts of self-harm, which a lot of it is due to the nature of the work. This isn't something special or something strange. This is about people's states of mind when you're under a huge amount of pressure. So we know that this is the case for seafarers all of the time because of the long contracts, the reduced levels of manning these days, the difficulties with communication, with shore leave. All of that already exists, and now we have COVID, and now we have the pressures around crew change. So for me, the concept of mental health is all part of the whole physical health situation, the whole environmental health situation, and really it's about a state of mind. And sometimes your state of mind is under so much pressure from all of these completely out of control circumstances that it's extremely rational to feel depressed or anxious at those times, and it's really important to recognize that and reach out for help. So again, I want to congratulate Manoj and FSUI on this excellent initiative, and I really want to encourage everybody who's listening in and watching into this launch to make use of it and to look after yourselves and to look after your crewmates and to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you very much for your support and your work that ITF Seafarer Trust is doing. Everybody is well aware about that from the shipping industry. With this, I would like to just say that during the time of pandemic, in spite of various reminders, in spite of various requests, in spite of various, you can say, so-cause, where the repatriation was start at that time, the ITF was the one body who have just taken the step and asked seafarers to exercise their rights of strike and pressurize the government to start the repatriation. So it was a crucial role during that time by ITF to just standing forefront with the seafarers during the time of pandemic. And I invite Brother Sangam to just give a brief about that. Brother Sangam.
You are now.
Thank you, Comrade Manoj. Good evening, friends. Hello, Katie. Hello, Asif, and other comrades from FSUI. I would just like to, I think Comrade Tapan Sen, who's a very senior leader of the Indian trade union movement, has really explained very well how we as a country, India as a country, we were exposed naked, all our aspirations to become a global power were, I think, reduced to dust when the whole world saw, our highways clogged with migrant workers just walking on foot with their kids and their baggages. Some traveling 2,000 kilometers, some traveling 3,000 kilometers just to reach their villages because they had lost their jobs in their cities, all means of their livelihood. And then they thought that with the pandemic, if at all they have to die, it's better they go back to their villages and die. And even if they have to survive, at least they would get a piece of bread and some salt back home, of which they were not assured in the cities. So how heartless our cities are, our the middle class or the employers or the capitalists, and how our governance failed, and was exposed naked. I think Comrade Tapan Sen put it very, very eloquently. So I will not go into all those details, and I would also like to point out that I'm not an expert on seafarers issues because our office in Delhi deals with all transport sectors. And during the pandemic, right from March onwards, at least as far as seafarers' issues and problems were concerned, these were basically dealt by our affiliated unions in India. But that does not mean that we were not kept in the loop, because myself and also our office, we were very keen to kind of share experiences with other countries about what's happening in India. And of course, as Katie pointed out, crew change, apart from the problems being faced by seafarers on board, gradually crew change became one of the biggest problems of the seafarers. And the Indian seafarers were no different from, or were not unaffected by this problem. Now, until last month, we know that there are still around 400,000 seafarers who are working on board ships much beyond, well beyond their contracts. They've been over 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, 15 months, and they're still waiting to be repatriated back after their contracts have got over. As far as India is concerned, right from the beginning, one thing that our office, and which I can share with you, was that I was always trying to understand what our authorities, particularly Director General of Shipping and Ministry of Shipping, was doing to deal with the problems of pandemic, because seafarers sign off at different ports, and those ports could be hundreds and thousands of kilometers away from their home. And so after sign off, how do they reach home? And the similar problem in case of sign-ons, if crew have to come, they would not necessarily come from the same port cities. They would come, India is a huge country. So if there was a sign-on to be done in Calcutta and the crew was in Chennai, well, he has to travel. And so right from the beginning, when we were kind of talking amongst our Asian team, the different offices of Asia, whenever we used to talk, the first issue that we started dealing with was how are the respective authorities in the different countries trying to deal with this problem. And to my surprise, and if I'm wrong, Manoj can correct me, I thought that the DG Shipping Office and the Shipping Ministry came up with quite an okay standard operating procedure for crew change in Indian ports. And this also came about quite soon. When I say quite soon, what I mean is when we used to have our meetings with the other Asian offices, we used to hear of stories where the other comrades, other colleagues,
I think some network issue is there. Let him come later. I think we have to wait. Some network issue. He will join soon. It is a good overview. Yes, Ministry of Home Affairs has already issued SOP during the starting time of pandemic, but we can say it was applicable only for the Indian seafarers on the Indian flag vessel, which was operating to the coast of Indian. But again, the number of the seafarers, Indian seafarers in foreign flag, are very high as compared to India. And it was, yeah, he came, he joined. Yes, sir. Yes, Brother Sangam.
hello. Hello.
Please carry on.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, this is the third webinar since morning, and the my battery was gone. Anyway, sorry about that. So I think it was by May or so that when I contacted our colleague, our union, seafarers unions in Bangladesh and in Sri Lanka, and asked them, if their authorities had issued or come up with any kind of standard operating procedures for crew change. They said they were still groping, and the DG shipping office was still kind of drafting it. And so that was, I think, the first time that I got involved in this whole process, simply by sharing the Indian standard operating procedure documents with the other seafarers unions in South Asia, and subsequently also I shared it with the other colleagues in the Asian countries. And I think on that count, what I would say is, as far as the crew change issue is concerned, the Director of Shipping Office was relatively quite proactive, and they did a good job out of the whole thing. So that was one aspect of crew change that I would like to share here, as per my experience. And the other thing was that I think again, Manoj, I think will agree with me that last month when we sat to make an assessment of the crew that had been changed, the sign-ons as well as sign-offs in India, we had already reached a figure of 100,000. And so I again tried to discuss this with my colleagues in other Asian countries, seafaring nations, and asked them as to, and everybody said that it's a good figure to reach. If 100,000 crew change has taken place in India, it's something that needs to be admired, of course. And of course, a lot of these sign-ons and sign-offs took place at the ports, Indian ports, as well as people who signed off in foreign ports, and then they were brought to India by flights or so on and so forth. So that is another thing I would like to share as far as crew change. Of course, what I experienced also was that probably the Shipping Ministry and the Director General of Shipping Office would not have been so proactive had it not been for our affiliated unions in India. Our unions, including FSUI, were constantly on their toes in impressing upon the government of India, the shipping ministry, the foreign ministry, as well as the Director General of Shipping, about the need to evolve these standard operating procedures and to ensure that they are implemented at the various ports. Now, of course, it is not to say that everything went on very smoothly. So again, my experience particularly relates to seafarers who are not members of either of the two ITF unions, because when you are a member of the union and you either sign off or you're going to sign on and you have a problem, you immediately call your union. But then there are hundreds and thousands of seafarers who are not members of any unions, and our office got a lot of such SOS calls and other things of crew landing up at ports, signed off, but then due to lockdown, due to other absence of any transport, how would they go home? How would they receive? How would they get all the clearances and the permissions to travel back to their villages or to their cities, which were far away? We also got calls from people, from seafarers, again, non-members of any union, who would land up, for example, at Delhi, but their home is at Vijayawada. And then once they landed at Delhi, the company kind of ensured that they came to Delhi, but then they had to quarantine for 14 days. And then at the end of the 14 days, the manning agent had disappeared, everybody had disappeared, and they did not know how to make the last journey, which is like still a good 1,500, 2,000 kilometers, having landed in India, but not being able to go home. So we received a lot of such queries and complaints and SOS calls, and tried our best to work with FSUI and other unions to help these seafarers. I mean, right now, as we speak, we are dealing again with a case where, these are 8 Sri Lankan crew, non-union members. They did their voyage. They came to Bangladesh because it was a Bangladesh manning agency. The ship managers, sorry, were in Bangladesh. So they came to Dhaka, and then because there were no flights available from Dhaka to Sri Lanka, they were sent to Maldives. Now they are stranded in Maldives for the last, I think, 12 or 13 days, paying for their hotel in Maldives, and they cannot make the journey from Maldives to Sri Lanka by flight, which is hardly a 1 hour flight. And the reason is because the manning agent did not give them a COVID clearance certificate, which was required, which will be required when they land at Colombo. So poor seafarers for last 12 days, whatever they had earned out of their 8-month contract, 9-month contract, they're now spending it on the hotels and to survive themselves. So of course, then we got in touch with our inspectors, we got in touch with our Maldives union and trying to ask them for help. Now the papers are being arranged, clearances are being got. So these kind of issues are still there, last month, I remember there were some Myanmar crew who had to be repatriated from Calcutta, and there were no flights to go. So the poor crew, they had no money, nothing. Somehow they got managed to be signed off, but then there was a big problem of transferring them back to Myanmar. So these kind of problems we have received. But as I said, overall, I think as India and in terms of the crew change, we may not have done the best. We could have done much more. But I think we have done better than many countries. And when I say many countries, these involve a lot of developed countries also who have just closed their international borders without any respect or a thought to spare for the poor seafarers who, like somebody said, are working on these floating prisons, like, for the last 13 months, 14 months, 15 months. These are like now floating prisons, but then they have not kind of developed humanitarian practices to ensure that the seafarers, after doing their contracts, are signed off. So this is what I think. And there are again a lot of problems we come across right now as far as Indian seafarers are concerned. I think the unions are doing a good job. There are issues like validation of certificates and other things. There are still issues of sign-ons, where seafarers are willing to sign on, but then there are problems of clearances and other things, and those problems persist. But like I said, overall, my impression is that as far as India is concerned, and as far as the issue of crew change is concerned, we could have done much better, but we have done relatively okay as far as the issue of crew change is concerned. Now, I would just like to also say a few things about the new FSUI app that is being launched, or that is already launched today. So congratulations, Manoj. Congratulations, Power Siemens Union of India, for launching this FSUI SEACALL app. I think the other speakers already said very rightly that it's very timely. Apart from the physical fatigue, there is a lot of mental fatigue amongst seafarers. People who are seafarers who are sitting at home without a job because they have not been able to board a ship due to the pandemic for the last 8 or 9 months, and seafarers who have come back from voyages, some stretching to over a year. So for all these seafarers, I think it's very timely that apart from the fact that they focus on their physical health being, that something is also done for their mental well-being. And the COVID problem is not going away anywhere. So even seafarers who sign on for their voyages, it's not that by December 31st the problem is going to go away and we will have all seafarers doing just 8 or 9 months voyages. This problem will still persist, and that is where the need for such a app will really be very, very useful. So I think it's very timely. I would just like to say lastly, 1 or 2 things, again, based on experience of other organizations who have had this kind of a app with them. What I would like to share is that it's very easy to make an app. That's probably the easiest thing to do, making the app. But what's really the most difficult thing is how you use that app. Okay, number one. And when I say use the app, what I mean is the sustainability. We launch things in a very excited way, but then down the line it kind of loses its sustainability. So I think FSUI should focus on ensuring that the kind of enthusiasm that you will see in the first month or the second month is still alive if we are kind of making an evaluation, say 13 months or 15 months or 20 months down the line. So that is one thing. The second thing I think is the usefulness of the app. I mean, it should be catered to the needs of the seafarers. So when somebody calls in and how useful is this app to that person? I think I have seen some of the apps which have been designed in a very idealistic way, whereas real life situations are sometimes much more basic, much more simple. And so I think the usefulness of the app is what is important. The third thing I would say that needs to be kept in mind, and we need to make an assessment maybe 2 years down the line or 1 year down the line, is the access or the reach, as we say. So we may launch an app, we may tell the seafarers, please, when you have a problem, this is the number, call up and somebody will answer you. But then down the line, as we go, it just remains there. We just keep saying, oh, one of the activities of our union is we have this app, and it's meant for seafarers problems. But what we forget is how many seafarers have accessed this app, how many have called up, and if we find that there is a desired objective is not being achieved or not being reached, we need to make an assessment. The union needs to make an assessment. What's gone wrong? Why is it not reaching out to the workers? Why are workers not accessing it? So I think these are some of the things that I can share with you, because I have seen other unions also come up with such apps. And down the line, 2 years, 3 years, when I have tried to find out, not just from the union, but also the people who run the app, to ask them, what's your assessment? How have things gone? Do you think people are excited about this app? Do you think people are, what's the daily rate of call that you receive, so on and so forth. So it's not to dampen your spirit. Today is the day when our spirits should be high, but I think somewhere we need to make a note of all these things and maybe revisit after 1 year or something. You have Dr. Asif Altaf. He's an expert on this, and I'm sure Asif is a friend of India and of the Indian unions. So I'm sure you will keep on getting proper guidance and assistance and support from Dr. Asif. Also make use of it, and just ensure that this noble venture that you have started today, it kind of reaches out to our seafarers. They are able to make use of it. Only then can we give a pat on our back to say we've done a good job. So Manoj, all the best to you, and that the Delhi office is always there for you, and all the best to you, all the best to FSUI and all the members of FSUI in this venture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Sangam. I really appreciate your comments and your suggestion. It will be very much noted down. And while making this, try to cover the points with the group which you have just discussed about. And we will try our best to reach this, make this service reach to maximum seafarers. And of course, yes, I very proudly say that ITF Delhi office is very much supportive with FSUI from long time. And with this, I can say that how this pandemic affected. Where, if I am not wrong, if Asif can correct me, there are 4 to 5 cruise ships sailors has committed suicide during this pandemic, and they were too young, and they were committed suicide. Maximum reason which I found was repatriation. So ITF recognized this issue long back, and this project is going on from long time. That mental stress and the well-being importance to the seafarers as well as their family very much. So on this issue, I would like to invite Brother Ashif Altaf to just give his views. It will be good if Dr. Asif comes with your video if you have any problem, because it is on live on Facebook, so that the CPS understand and let the CPS see you.
Manoj, thank you, Manoj, for giving me the opportunity. But I am trying my best to connect my video. For some reason, it's saying an error. So I'm extremely sorry for that. I tried my laptop, iPad, and phone, but somehow it's failed. So in relation to what Brother Sangam you said and Manoj you said, just now I am dealing with the Indian chief officer, who is a senior rank officer. He is on board for 7.5 months, and his contract for 4 months. And he wrote an email to us saying that he's suicidal and he wants to go back home. So I think from the ITF side, our point of view is that we need to work on the repatriation, but we just cannot forget the mental health aspect of the seafarer. So it has to go together. So in the ITF now, I think within the ITF system, we are trying to put in a combined way where we do the technical part with the company, repatriation, COVID certificate, flights, and so on. But at the same time, we also look after the mental health aspect of the seafarer. So that's the thing we are doing now. At this moment, I wrote an email and talked to that seafarer, Indian seafarer who is stranded in a Singapore Strait, and at the same time, our office is talking to the company for him to go back home. So when we are talking about well-being, we need to understand that well-being is not the opposite of mental illness. Well-being is the experience of health, happiness, and life satisfaction. So for our seafarers, we just don't want them to have disease. What we want them that they have a good health, they are happy, and they are happy what they are doing. So our ultimate goal within the ITF, and I talk to Katie quite regularly. I think our stand point is very common. We want every seafarer to be healthy and happy, and they should be happy what they are doing. So we FSUI is starting a very important initiative. I agree with Brother Sangam that the number is important, but even we can save few lives. I think that's a huge thing we can be proud of, because life has is priceless sort of thing. So um, again, I fully agree with you, Brother Sangam, that we need to promote the service, and I'm sure FSUI will find ways to promote the service. ITF and the Seafarer Trust has launched a directory. We will definitely put this service within our directory. ITF and ITF Seafarer Trust has a huge Facebook followers. We'll definitely promote this service within our network. But I think it is very important to start more service, because more people know about it. It's more helpful to seafarers. And again, we don't know when we will receive the call, but it is important that when you receive the call, someone is there to listen. Someone is there to provide non-judgmental support. I'm not talking about giving help, telling him do this or do that. It's about listening. I think listening is extremely important, and that's why I think what FSU is starting today, somebody in the other side of the phone who will be able to listen to someone with all the problem he or she is facing, and then try to guide him or her to the best possible solution. For example, it's not about suicide. Like we talked about suicide a lot. For example, a seafarer cannot sleep for last 7 days, and that is causing him anxiety disorder. Am I having insomnia, for example? So again, a phone call with a psychologist, with a counselor, can help that person to understand that, like how to have a good sleep. So I think our program, what FUSI is trying to do here, is just not to prevent suicide, is about the well-being of the seafarer, so that at the end of the day, all the seafarers, all the FSUI members are healthy and happy. And again, for example, uh, um, for 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 being healthy and happy, we need to build confidence. And again, our counselor can help a seafarer to have the confidence and to have the capacity to manage stress, because stress is there and stress will be there. It's all about how we are managing it. And I can assure you from the ITF side, I'll be working with you, Manoj, and the counselor, Lisa, definitely, so that um, the service provides the best quality service. Another thing is that we can also take advantage of the huge ITF inspectors network all over the world. For example, an Indian seafarer is having health issues, mental health issues, somewhere in Chile, for example, far away from India. We have an inspector in Chile. So, if necessary, if it is necessary to involve our inspector in Chile for that Indian seafarer, we can able to do that. So, I think this service can really help the Indian seafarers in a big way, and definitely, as Brother Sangam, when we launch, is just a launch, but we will work ways together to make it more effective and more definitely make it more user friendly, and also at the end of the day make it useful to the seafarers. But I think I really congratulate FSUI to take this initiative, and I'm sure it will be a great support to the seafarers who are sailing on board at this moment somewhere in the world or at home, looking to go back to ship. Because we sometimes forget that many seafarers home now who are desperate to go back to ship cannot go back. We just cannot think of repatriation. We also have to think about the necessity of the seafarer to go to join a ship. So yes, ITF is with you, FSUI, and Manoj, and ITF will be with you. I'm sorry for the technical thing, but definitely in the future we will do more session like that, and where there'll be no technical problem, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Asif. Before we proceed to our final speaker, our counselor, I would like to request Comrade Prasad Nandi Chaudhary, who is already here. He is the Central Secretary of CITU, and I request him for his submission. Dr. Comrade Prasad Nandi Chaudhary, please.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, Comrade, you are. Yes, Comrade, you are.
Hello. Okay. First of all, I greet all the participants from India and abroad, including ITF Trust, and my brother from FSUI as well, Lisa Hazarika. Actually, the problem of seamen could the problem at the initial stage when the lockdown was declared in our country. We noted that the situation of the migrants mainly in
Comrade, your voice is breaking. Comrade, your voice is breaking.
in a city. Okay. Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, it is okay.
Hello. Is it okay? Okay. Similar.
Sorry, Comrade, your voice is breaking. Your voice is. We can't hear you, Comrade. Comrade. is out. Just a second, please. Yes, correct. Comrade Prashant, Comrade Chaudhary, can you hear me? Hello. I think he's here. Comrade, can you hear us? Okay, Lisa, you start your introduction. I will request Comrade Chaudhary after you. Please. No, Lisa, we can't hear you, Lisa. Please unmute yourself. Where are you? Again? Yeah. Speak. No. Lisa, all is well. We can't hear you. No. Some network issue or some technical issues. We can't hear you, Lisa. Yeah, please. We are here to hear you, not else. You are the counselor.
You are now.
Take out your earphone and try speaking directly to your PC or laptop or whatever. Unplug this and then try speaking to the microphone of the PC or the laptop without the earphone.
Yeah,
Oh, you have
yeah,
only
direct.
direct. Try direct. Say something. So
Hello. No. Some issues are there. Please, please. Is it okay? Yeah. Speak, Lisa. At least we came to know. Anyway, I think there are some technical issue. If it is okay, we can just stop here, or if you can, is it possible to speak? Anyway, Katie, thank you very much for your presence. I'm really appreciating you because you have given lots of time for this our small program of inauguration of our app and the service. We will try our best to provide the service as much as possible. And I am really thankful on behalf of my FSUI family that you came here. And thank you once again for all the things you did for FSUI and the Seafarers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoj. It was a great pleasure, and I wish you all the success in the future with this app and with this program. And I think technical difficulties are part of the course in this day and age, part of life. So I'm sure you'll get there in the end.
Thank you, Brother Sangam, and thank you, everyone. Due to some technical issues, sir, I'm unable to just be unable to hear Lisa, but definitely next time we'll prepare with more details, with more examples, how it goes on, if it is on our team, and Lisa will take care of that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time and your participation. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. We say thank you. Thank you. Lisa, thank you very much. We are just closing down this session, and we will soon meet on this with other session. Okay. Thank you very much for your support, Lisa. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.